Hey guys, welcome to What If Azula Died in Avatar: The Last Airbender. What if the Book 3 episode titled The Southern Raiders created an event that would shape the rest of the season, changing not only how Team Avatar sees Zuko, but more importantly, how Zuko sees himself. Also, please do not forget to give this video a like and hit the notification bell to be updated about brand new videos. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. The episode begins pretty much the same way it always does. The group is still hiding at the Western Air Temple, trying to stay out of sight while preparing for the final confrontation with the Fire Nation. But their hiding place does not stay hidden for long. Without warning, Fire Nation airships appear above the temple. Princess Azula has found them. Explosions rip across the ancient structure as firebombs rain from the sky. Stone pillars shatter. Ancient walkways collapse. The entire temple shakes beneath the assault. Everyone scrambles for cover. Katara barely has time to react before a section of stone breaks loose above her. Zuko tackles her out of the way. The rocks crash down where she is standing only moments before. For a brief second, they lie on the ground together. Then Katara immediately shoves him away. She tells him to get off of her. There isn't even a thank you. Zuko says nothing. He simply gets back to his feet. The group quickly regroups and escapes aboard Appa as the temple continues collapsing behind them. Zuko and Azula engage in an intense fire-bending duel on top of the airships. During the fight, both siblings are knocked off an airship. Zuko is rescued by Appa, while Azula falls. For a moment, he quietly says that she isn't going to make it. But Azula narrowly saves herself using her fire bending to grip onto the side of the cliff. Because of course she does. Of course she survives. But then the rock cracks. Everyone sees it happen. The entire formation gives way beneath her feet. Azula's eyes widen. The rock shatters. She falls again. This time there is nothing beneath her. Halfway down the cliffside, her body slams violently against the edge of another rock. Her head collides with the rock hard, killing her instantly. And then, her body slides off of the rock and vanishes into the thick mist below, leaving blood on the rock from the impact. Nobody sees her again. Zuko is in complete shock. Silence fills the sky. Even Appa seems quieter. Nobody speaks. Nobody celebrates. Because everyone understands what they have just witnessed. Princess Azula has fallen to her death. Hours later, the group establishes a temporary camp far from the destroyed temple. A small fire burns in the center. The mood is strange. Part relief, part exhaustion, part guilt. Eventually, Sokka raises a cup. He says that regardless of everything else, Zuko has saved all of them today. The others agree. One by one, they toast him. Aang thanks him. Toph thanks him. Even Sokka gives him a nod of respect. Zuko quietly thanks them. But there is no smile, no satisfaction, no pride. Because despite everything Azula has done, she is still his sister. Katara tells Zuko that he deserves none of this, after everything, telling him that a few good deeds don't undo the past. The camp goes quiet. He says nothing. He just stands up. He quietly excuses himself. Then he walks away into the darkness. The group watches him go. Nobody stops him. Nobody knows what to say. Then Katara suddenly stands. She tells everyone she is going to talk to him. Sokka immediately looks uncertain. Aang looks worried. Toph crosses her arms. None of them try to stop her, but all of them have the same feeling. This is probably not going to end well. Zuko stands alone near the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley below. The wind moves through his hair. His eyes remain fixed on the darkness. He can still see it. Azula falling. The look on her face. The moment she disappears. Footsteps approach from behind. He already knows who it is. Katara stops beside him. For several moments, neither speaks. Finally, she breaks the silence. She asks if he is seriously just going to get up and walk away from everyone like that. Zuko doesn't even look at her. Instead, he asks why she cares. He asks if she only wants another chance to insult him. He points out that she obviously doesn't want him around. Katara folds her arms. She replies that he is right. There is no point pretending otherwise. For a moment, Zuko just nods. Then he finally looks at her. He asks why it bothers her that he left if she hates having him there. Katara opens her mouth, then stops, because she doesn't actually have an answer. Even she realizes it doesn't make much sense. The silence stretches. Finally, Zuko asks what she wants from him. What can he do to make up for the past? Katara's expression hardens. She asks if he can take back all the years he spends hunting them, or reconquer Ba Sing Se in the name of the Earth King. Then she tells him he can bring her mother back. On that note, something inside Zuko finally breaks. His head snaps toward her. His voice explodes. His startled reaction is immediate. The single word, "What?" escapes him in disbelief. Katara takes a step back. She has never heard him sound like that before. His entire body slowly starts shaking. He demands to know if she seriously believes he is responsible for everything simply because he was born Fire Nation. He asks if she thinks she is the only person who has ever lost family. Then his voice cracks completely. He shouts at her, saying that he's just watched his sister die. His sister. She might have been cruel. She might have been a monster. But she was still his sister. Tears pour freely down his face. He says he has been trying his best to make things right. Trying to help, to change, to atone. But somehow it never seems to matter. Nothing he does is ever good enough for her. He shouts that he watched Azula fall to her death that very day. And he honestly believes Katara of all people would understand what it feels like to lose family. His voice completely collapses. He tells her that no matter how hard he tries, everything he does seems to fall short in her eyes. And every time he fails to meet some impossible standard, she kicks him while he is already down. The tears do not stop. Neither does the pain. Then come the words that hit harder than anything else. "So how dare you blame me for your mother?" He demands to know how she can place that burden on him. Because he wasn't there. He didn't do it. And deep down, she knows that. The valley falls silent. Even the wind seems to disappear. Katara stands frozen. For the first time since Zuko has joined the group. She has no response. No anger. No accusation. No comeback. Just silence. And standing before her is not the prince who hunted them across the world. It isn't even the Fire Nation heir. It is simply a grieving brother. A grieving brother who has just watched the last member of his family disappear into the abyss. And for the first time, Katara begins to wonder if she has gone too far. For a long moment after Zuko's outburst, nobody moves. Katara stands frozen, the tears running down Zuko's face, the pain in his voice, the grief. None of it can be ignored. Eventually, Zuko turns away from her. Without another word, he walks away from the camp. Katara remains where she is, staring at the ground, thinking about every word he has said. When she finally returns to camp, the others immediately notice something is wrong. Aang approaches first. He gently places a hand on her shoulder. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. The look on his face says everything. Disappointment, understanding, and the unmistakable realization that she's crossed a line. Katara lowers her eyes. For once, nobody argues. Nobody defends her. Even Sokka remains quiet. Because deep down, they all know Zuko hasn't deserved what she'd said. The next morning, Katara wakes up before sunrise. The guilt hasn't let her sleep. She eventually decides to find Zuko. His tent is empty. At first she thinks he might already be awake. Then she notices a faint trail of smoke. Following it leads her away from camp. There, beside a small dying fire, she finds him. He hasn't slept in his tent at all. He's lying on the cold, hard ground, curled slightly beside the fire, his arms wrapped around himself, shivering. Even in his sleep, he looks miserable. Katara feels her stomach twist. Without waking him, she slips off her own cloak and gently drapes it over his shoulders. Zuko shifts slightly, but remains asleep. Katara turns around and walks back to camp. When she returns, the others immediately ask where he's been. Katara tells them. The fire, the ground, the shivering, everything. Nobody looks surprised. In fact, several of them look frustrated. Sokka finally speaks. He points out that Zuko has spent months helping them, teaching Aang firebending, helping him break their dad out of the boiling rock, standing beside them despite knowing nobody fully trusts him. And yet Katara blames him for something he has absolutely nothing to do with. Toph crosses her arms. She points out that losing family doesn't give someone the right to hurt other people, especially people who are already hurting. Aang quietly agrees. He reminds Katara that Zuko lost his sister yesterday, and instead of helping, or at least showing a little sympathy, she made it worse. Aang tells her plainly that she owes Zuko an apology. Katara doesn't argue, because they are right. Every single one of them. Later that afternoon, she finds Zuko sitting alone on a cliff overlooking the valley. His eyes are fixed on the horizon. The wind moves softly through his hair. He doesn't even look surprised when Katara approaches. For several moments, neither of them speaks. Finally, Katara sits beside him. She takes a deep breath. Then she tells him that she's sorry. She admits that he's right. She spent so much time focusing on her own anger that she's ignored everything he's done for them. For everything. She admits she's taken for granted the fact that he taught Aang firebending, that he helped Sokka escape the boiling rock, and that he repeatedly risked his life for people who still doubted him. Most importantly, she admits that she has completely ignored how much pain he's in. She admits that Azula's death has to be devastating. No matter what kind of person Azula had become, she was still his sister. Zuko stares silently at the horizon. Then he finally speaks, and admits that every time he closes his eyes, he sees her falling. The fear in her eyes, the impact, the blood, her body disappearing into the mist below. Again, and again, and again, Katara feels tears filling her own eyes. She apologizes again, this time with no excuses attached. No conditions. No anger. Just regret. A moment later, she wraps her arms around him. And for the first time since Azula's death, Zuko hugs someone back. Unfortunately, the nightmares don't stop. Not that night. Not the next. Not the night after that. Nearly every night that week, Zuko bolts awake drenched in sweat. His heart racing. Always seeing the same thing. Azula falling. The impact. The blood. The silence afterward. Every single night. The trauma never gives him peace. It only grows worse. Then comes the dream that finally breaks him. In the dream, he stood on a cliff overlooking endless darkness. Azula was gone, but two familiar figures stood before him. His mother and his father, standing side by side. Ursa looked at him sadly. Then she told him that he should have saved her. Ozai's expression was far colder. He told Zuko that he had failed her, just like he failed everyone else. The words cut deeper than any blade. Failure. The word he had spent his entire life running from. The word that had haunted him since childhood. The dream ends, but the damage remains. Zuko wakes up shaking. Tears stream down his face. He can't do it anymore. Can't fight, or even sleep anymore. He doesn't want to keep reliving Azula's death. Without thinking, he gets to his feet. He leaves camp, and begins walking to the edge of the cliff. He pulls out a hunting knife from his belt, and intends to end his suffering. Thankfully, Toph isn't fully asleep. At first she thinks she is imagining it. Then she feels the vibrations, but then realizes something's wrong. Her eyes immediately snap open, and she shouts, "Zuko!" The entire camp jolts awake. Everyone springs to their feet, fear immediately flooding their faces. Toph says he's at the cliff. They all run as fast as they can. They find him standing at the edge of a cliff with his knife in hand. Tears stream down his face as his body shakes uncontrollably. For a split second, nobody moves. Then Katara sees him raise the blade, and she runs. The instant Zuko begins bringing the knife down, Katara slams into him. The two crash to the ground. The knife flies from his hand and skids away across the stone. Katara immediately wraps her arms around him. Scared for him, she demands to know what he is doing. Zuko completely falls apart. Through tears, he admits that he can't do it anymore. That he can't keep reliving the moment over and over and over. Katara holds him tighter, as if letting go will make him disappear. Nobody speaks. Not Aang, not Sokka, not Toph. All they can do is watch one of the strongest people they know completely break beneath the weight of his grief. The following morning is quiet. Nobody has slept much, especially Zuko. As the group sits eating breakfast, he slowly approaches, looking exhausted and feeling broken. He looks toward Katara, then quietly asks her how she did it, how she kept living after losing her mother. The camp falls silent. Katara looks at him for a long moment. Then she answers, telling him about the pain, about the anger, about the years spent hurting. But she also tells him something else, that eventually she realized she had two choices. She could spend her entire life reliving the worst day of her life, or she could keep living for the people she still had. Neither option was easy, but only one allowed her to keep moving forward. Zuko listens to every word. When she finishes, he simply nods in understanding. Then he looks toward the rest of the group. He takes a shaky breath and speaks. He admits that he needs to say something, because if he doesn't, it'll just keep building inside him. He tells them about the dream, about seeing his parents standing together, about his mother telling him he should have saved Azula, about his father calling him a failure. His voice shakes as he speaks. He admits that hearing those words was the final straw. He tells them that standing on that cliff last night, He truly believed the trauma would never end. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees the same thing. Azula falling. The impact. The blood. Again and again and again. He admits that part of him feels like it died alongside Azula. And because of that, when he had that knife in his hand, he thought it wouldn't make a difference if the rest of him disappeared too. Tears stream down his face as he admits that he doesn't want to hurt anymore. The grief he feels has become so overwhelming, he can physically feel it. Like a weight crushing his chest every second of every day. He quietly confesses that last night, he genuinely didn't want to be alive anymore. The words hit the group hard, because they know he means them. Then Zuko looks at Katara, and despite everything that has happened, he apologizes. He tells her he knows he wasn't there when her mother died. He knows he has nothing to do with it, but he still tells her he's sorry for what happened. Sorry for her loss. Katara's eyes immediately fill with tears. This time nobody speaks, because there is nothing left to say, only healing. And for the first time since Azula's death, Zuko isn't carrying the weight alone. Later that same day, Zuko walks to the edge of that cliff again, and pulls back out that same knife. But this time, he throws it off of the cliff and into the water. He makes a decision that he'd never allow himself to go down that path again. A few days after the attack on the Western Air Temple, reports reached the Fire Nation capital. Princess Azula pursued the Avatar and his allies. During the battle, she fell into the canyon below the temple. No body was recovered. She is presumed dead. The news is delivered to Fire Lord Ozai. An officer kneels before the throne and gives his report. Ozai listens in silence. His expression remains unreadable. Then blue fire erupts from his hand, striking a nearby pillar. No one speaks. Ozai demands an explanation. The officer recounts the pursuit, Zuko's interference, and Azula's fall into the canyon. When he finishes, Ozai rises from his throne. His chosen heir is gone. Not because of the Avatar, because Zuko intervened. He calls Zuko a traitor and blames him for taking everything from him. Then, beneath the anger, another feeling emerges. Loss. He remembers Azula as a child, mastering blue fire and seeking his approval. She had been everything he wanted in an heir, powerful, fearless, ruthless. Everything Zuko was not. Now she's gone. Ozai buries the feeling. Grief is weakness. That is what he believes. That is what he taught his children. So he turns his attention to the coming comet. The war must end. Without Azula, his plans for succession must change. He dismisses the throne room. When the doors close, he stands alone. His gaze drifts to the empty space beside the throne where Azula would have stood. For a brief moment, he accepts the truth. He will never see his daughter again. The feeling passes. His expression hardens. He locks the pain away and prepares for war. The days that follow are difficult. Even though Zuko has opened up to the group, even though Katara has apologized, the pain doesn't simply disappear. Healing isn't that simple. Some mornings are better than others. Some nights are worse than others. But at the very least, he isn't carrying everything alone anymore. The group becomes more aware of what he is going through, especially Katara. After everything that happened on the cliff, she finds herself paying closer attention to him, checking on him, making sure he's eating, sleeping, or at least trying to sleep. Because despite his best efforts, the nightmares still come. Not every night, but often enough. And every time they do, the image is always the same. Azula dying. Eventually, the group finds themselves attending the infamous Ember Island Players' performance. None of them are particularly excited. The play somehow manages to get almost everything wrong. The costumes are ridiculous. The acting is terrible. The dialogue makes everybody cringe. Sokka spends half the performance complaining about how badly they portray him. Then the play reaches the part everyone has been dreading. The attack on the Western Air Temple. The atmosphere changes immediately. Nobody laughs anymore. Nobody makes jokes. Even the actors seem more serious. Zuko feels his stomach tightening. He already knows what is coming. He wants to leave, but he can't move. The scene continues. The actress falls, lands on the cliffside that breaks, and she falls again, exactly like before. The moment the actress portraying Azula slams into the cliffside rock, something inside Zuko freezes. Because suddenly he isn't watching a play anymore. He is back at the Western Air Temple watching her fall, smacking into that rock, watching her disappear into the mist. Katara notices immediately, and without hesitation, Katara reaches over. She gently grabs both sides of his face. then turns his head away from the stage, covering his eyes with her hand, not wanting him to watch his sister die all over again. Zuko simply sits there, trying to pull himself back to reality and to remind himself that it isn't real, that it is only a performance. But the damage is already done. Suddenly he stands. Without saying a word, he turns and storms out of the theater. Katara immediately stands as well. She finds Zuko alone on the balcony. She walks over and stops beside him. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Finally, Katara asks if he is okay. He doesn't know how to answer. He says part of him still feels responsible. Part of him believes he failed Azula. Katara shakes her head and tells him there was nothing more he could have done. He redirected the attack. What happened after that was not his choice. Azula made her own decisions. Zuko looks away. He says it never feels that simple. Every time he closes his eyes, he thinks about what he could have done differently. Maybe he could have reached her. Maybe he could have saved her. Katara tells him grief always works that way. It makes people blame themselves for things they could not control. She knows because she did the same after her mother died. His eyes fill with tears. He tells her he is tired. Tired of hurting. Tired of carrying the memory. Katara says nothing. She steps forward and hugs him. She stays with him while he cries. When they finally pull apart, she brushes away the tears beneath his eyes and gives him a kiss on the cheek. The gesture catches him by surprise. Her expression is warm and reassuring. She tells him that Azula's choices were never his burden to carry. She reminds him that loving someone does not mean he could have saved them from themselves. Then she rests a hand on his shoulder. She tells him he is not a failure and how he did everything he could. Most importantly, she tells him he does not have to carry this alone. Some of the tension leaves his face. The grief remains. But now he knows he doesn't have to bear it by himself. And that's it for part 1. In this timeline, her death changes everything, reshaping Zuko's journey, deepening his bond with Katara, and altering the course of Sozin's comet. At its core, this story is about grief. Loss touches everyone differently. Some cry, some get angry, and some carry their pain for years. Grief never fully disappears, but it becomes easier when we let others help us carry it. Healing isn't about forgetting those we've lost. It's about learning to move forward while honoring their memory. And remember, you don't have to face it alone. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the story, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, also comment below any other what-if theories you'd like to see next. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.